Okay, can everybody see my screen? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you. Okay, great. So welcome to the Inoxico Fabric Onboarding Portal. This is the portal you will use in order to onboard a new supplier. You can also use the platform to onboard for a new employee that needs to be onboarded. And if you are an existing employee, you can use the platform in order to update your banking details if you need to do that. Okay. As a user of the system, you should have received a username and password, and with that username, you will then access the system. Your username will be your email address, and the password you will use is the password you would have created when you activated your account. Okay. I am going to provide you with our support contact details. So in an event, if you need your password reset or you need assistance on the platform, you can reach out to our support team at Inoxico, and they will assist you with any information or assistance you require. Okay, so once you have accessed the system, you will see that we have configured the system to the Adcock Ingram colors. You would need to then either select a process. So the selector process is where you would kick off your workflow or submit the application. The action center is where you can track to see how far those applications are sitting. Okay. Once you have logged onto the system, in order to onboard either an employee or a supplier, you will click on the Select a Process tile. This will then open up the workflows that we have available. So we have the supplier onboarding, which is for new suppliers that you'd like to onboard. And the employee onboarding is for new employees as well as for existing employees where they would like to update their banking details. We will start with the supplier onboarding. In order to onboard a supplier, the user who will be initiating the application will click on the Start button, and the system will then open up a section where you can search for the company. Okay, so it is defaulted to company. You will search with either the name, the registration number, or the VAT number. If it's a person, for example, a sole proprietor, you will then search with the ID number. Okay, so I'm just going to add in a company name. And the system will bring up all the companies we have available in the database with that name. Obviously, if you do a search with the registration number or the VAT number, the system will bring up that particular company linked to that registration number. Okay. So I am going to select this particular company. Once you have found the company on our database, you will see that the system will automatically add the information that we have existing onto the database. You do not have to complete this field. What you will need to complete as a requester is the supplier contact information and all the fields that appear below. Okay. Are there any questions so far?
If there's no supplier there,
okay,
then what happens?
Okay, so if you do a search for a company and nothing appears in the search results below, you can click on this Can't Find Your Company, Add It Now. And as you can see, you would then need to provide the supplier name. The registration number, VAT number, and website address is not a mandatory field. You will need to provide the supplier contact information, the amounts, as well as the fields below, and we would still be able to then send the application to the supplier for completion. Okay.
So if you don't know the amount,
you can add in a 0 in that
the
field.
expected annual contract value, if you don't know that.
You can add in a 0.
Okay.
The system will allow you to proceed. Okay. Okay, so that's an indication of how you can then, if the company is not available on our database, so if it's not registered, you can then click on Can't Find Your Company, Add It Now. So in most instances, it may be a sole proprietor or a company that's not registered, and we have not done a report on them previously, and it will not be available in our database. Okay. So I'm going to click on this company, and the information we have will pre-populate. You would need to add in the supplier contact information. This is the person that needs to receive the application for completion. If you would need to add in the expected annual contract value. If you don't know the value, you can add a 0 in that field. You would need to select your department, so under which business unit you fall under. You would need to indicate the vendor type. You select the payment terms and discount, and you would need to provide motivation confirming why the supplier is required. We have also added in this declaration of interest that you would need to answer yes or no to. So this was something that was requested from a legal point of view. So the legal team at Adcock Ingram provided us with this information, and you would then need to answer yes or no. And you would need to download and sign the disclosure of interest form. So once you click on download, it will then download the disclosure of interest form. And then you would need to upload the document onto the platform under the attach file section. Okay, any questions with regards to this? Okay, so once you've uploaded the document, you'll click on submit request. You will see that the onboarding has been initiated and is currently being processed. This will now go to an initial risk reviewer because our system will do an automatic validation on the business to check for any adverse information. The initial risk reviewer at Adcock Ingram will receive the email stating the application has undergone risk checks. Once they click on view results, it will then open up the information that you have added in as a requester, as well as the declaration of interest you have answered and the disclosure form. The validations that we have done on our side will be available, and the initial risk reviewer can either decline or approve the application at this point. Okay, so based on the outcome of the declaration of interest and the risk checks, the initial risk reviewer at Adcock Ingram can decline or approve. If they decline, an application will not be sent to the supplier for completion, and the process will end at this point. Okay.
Zina,
yes.
That declaration of interest, is it something we, as for example, a PA needs to complete, or is that what a supplier needs to complete?
This process that I'm doing now is the initiating process where you as a user will log in to onboard. You will search for the company, and then you would need to complete this declaration of interest form. So as a staff member of Adcock Ingram, you would need to complete that document.
Okay.
All of this is all of this that I'm showing you now is before the application is actually sent to the supplier.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So if they are happy with the outcome, the initial risk reviewer, so this is still the person at Adcock Ingram, will approve the application, and this is when it will now go to the supplier for completion. So I am the supplier, and I've received an email stating Adcock Ingram supplier onboarding. It has been white labeled to Adcock Ingram, so the supplier can see that it is actually an application for your business. They will need to click on complete onboarding, and the system will then open up the digital application. Okay, so this is now the supplier section. This is what the supplier will complete. They can reassign the application at any point. We've got a reassign button on the top left, and they can reassign the application at any point if they feel they don't have the necessary information or they're not authorized to provide certain fields. Okay. We have loaded in the POPIA and consent section on the first page, and the supplier would need to give consent in order to proceed to the next page of the application. We have loaded in all the custom questions. So we have gone through all these questions previously during the other sessions that we've had. And these are all the set questions that the supplier would need to complete. It also has all the different conflict of interest questions and so on. Okay. I'm just going to complete these. So this was actually on your previous form. They would also need to provide the remittance advice contact person, as well as their email address. Once they click on next, information from our database will pre-populate. As you can see, the statutory information, the supplier can just confirm this information. The registered address will pre-populate from SIPC. The supplier can update their physical address as well as their postal address, and they would need to then provide their site address as well. So if they need to update any of those fields, they will click on custom address, and they will then, the system will populate the map, and they can then search for their address. Once they click on save, the system will automatically add the details into the platform. The contact information, so that will pre-populate. They can update the company contact information on these fields. Bank account information, the supplier would need to add their banking details. They would also need to indicate if it's their primary account. Tax information, so this will pre-populate from SARS. The supplier can just confirm the information. And they would need to indicate if this is their primary VAT number. At any point, if there's a mandatory field that the supplier needs to complete and they don't complete it, the system will bring up that toast pop-up that will show they need to complete a certain field. Okay, they would need to indicate under the tax clearance certificate section, if they are certified, they would need to provide the PIN, the expiry date, and attach a copy of their certificate. Not certified, they will select that if it's pending the date of issue. The BEE status, if they're in audit, the expected date of issue. If they are certified, they need to provide the details as it appears on the certificate or affidavit and upload a copy of the document. If they are not certified, they will select not certified. The active directors will pre-populate on the system. This is verified information from SIPC. They cannot remove these fields. They can add an additional principal. So if they would like to add the manager of the business, they do have the ability to add that information. The next section is the confirmation and agreements. If they are authorized to sign company documents, they'll select yes. And what would happen is all the active directors that appear from SIPC will pre-populate. If they are a director, they will select their name and attach a copy of their ID. If they are not a director, they will select other, and they would need to upload a copy of their ID and a board resolution that gives them authority to sign. Okay. We have loaded the Adcock Ingram purchase order terms and conditions into the platform for the supplier to read through. If they are not in agreement with any of the clauses, they can dispute the agreement. If they select yes, they can provide a summary as to which clause they're disputing, and the system then provides them with instructions on how to actually download the agreement, and they can make amendments on the agreement and then upload those amended agreements onto the platform. Once they click on next, this application will then go to the legal team at Adcock Ingram, and they will then resolve that dispute with that supplier. Okay. If there is no dispute, so I'm just going to remove this dispute. Let me just attach an ID document, a document over here. If they do not want to dispute and they are happy with the terms and conditions, they would need to accept these confirmations below. Is there a question? Okay, once they click on sign agreements, the system will send a one-time PIN to the person signing the application, which will go through to their email address. The one-time PIN will need to be added in, and once they click on sign, what did I do? Just get that one-time PIN over there. There we go. It's missing a digit. So once they click on sign, that's how the application will be digitally signed. They would need to click on next, and once they click on submit, that will bring us to the end of the supplier completing your application form. Okay, so that's the process that the supplier would complete in order to complete the digital application. This will come into Inoxico where we would do our due diligence. We would also check the BEE information and run an account verification on that supplier. Once that has been concluded, the application will then move to a final approver within your business unit. So this is when it comes back to a person at Adcock Ingram under the final approval level. They will receive the email stating the application has undergone several risk checks. And once they click on view results, they would be able to see the application as well as the digital signature. So the digital signature will be verified and it has the technical details linked to the signature, which will stand up in a court of law. They're also able to see the full onboarding. So this will have the full application that the supplier has completed with all the necessary documents and questions. The Inoxico report, where we would do our risk assessment, as well as the AVS on the business and the due diligence as well. So that will be available on the final approval stage. They'll also be able to see the score. So this would indicate if the company is considered a low risk, a medium risk, or a very high risk supplier. And from here, the final approvers can then either decline or approve the customer's application. Okay. If they're happy with the outcome of the supplier and they would like to onboard them, the final approver can then click on approve and they can provide motivation notes. So this is their internal notes that they can add in this section. Once they click on approve, that will bring us to the end of the digital onboarding process. Now that the application has been approved by the final approver, the system will then automatically take that supplier and then create an account on Oracle for you. Okay, so it's an integration that will happen in the back end where the account will then be automatically created on the Oracle platform.
Just on that, would it be created in the nighttime? How would the interface actually happen?
It's an automatic interface, so we will then drop a file to your IT department that they will receive via integration, and then that certain fields are then pulled into Oracle, and then it automatically creates the account. Okay. One thing you guys should just be aware of is that the supplier onboarding is only for South African entities. You can only use this portal in order to onboard companies situated in South Africa. For any international suppliers or companies situated outside of South Africa, you would still follow the normal process like you follow currently. Okay.
Sorry, just on that interfacing, how long will it take after the last approval for it to get onto Oracle?
You would just need to double check with Zweli. What is their timeline? Because we will send the file as soon as it's approved. I think it takes a couple of minutes and then it should have already been created.
All right. Fine.
Okay, so that's the supplier onboarding process that will be followed. I am going to click on the Adcock Ingram logo and it will take me back to the home screen. And we are going to now go through the employee onboarding and bank account update for an employee. Okay. So where you have a new employee that needs to be onboarded, or if you are an existing employee and would like to update your banking details, this is the process that would need to be followed. You'd also log into the Fabric platform and you would click on select the process tile. You would then need to go to the employee onboarding / employee bank account update workflow. Once you click on start, you'll notice that this workflow is defaulted to person because it is for actual employees, and you would then need to add in the employee's ID number. Okay. Once you've added in the employee's ID number, their details will then pre-populate. You would then need to, you will see that some information has already been pre-populated. We have repurposed the supplier workflow. That's why a lot of the sections will say supplier or a registration number, for example, because it is actually the supplier workflow that we've repurposed for this purpose. Okay. You would then need to add in the employee's full name, email address, and contact number because they will be receiving an application for completion. Okay. Expected annual contract, you can just add a 0 in this field. You would need to indicate which department you fall under. Once you click on submit request, this application will also stop on a risk check stage. So this will go to a risk reviewer in your business unit, and they will be able to see that this email has come through. However, when they click to open the email, there are no actual risk checks that are done on this application. But because we've repurposed the supplier onboarding, it will then stop on this section. The initial risk reviewer at Adcock Ingram will just need to click on approve. And this is when an email will be sent to the employee and they will receive the email to complete that application. Okay. So I am going to be acting as an employee, a new employee or an existing employee at Adcock Ingram. And this is the email heading that you will receive in your inbox. You will then need to click on complete onboarding, and the system will then open up the application for you. There is a bit of a landing page that welcomes you to the portal. Once you click on next, you would need to answer a few questions. So it will ask, are you a new employee? So you will either select yes or no. It will ask, are you an existing employee who would like to update your banking details? And you would also need to indicate yes or no. Okay. If you select no, the new employee would just need to upload a confirmation of their banking details not older than 3 months. If you are an existing employee and would like to update your banking details and you select yes, you need to provide your vendor number. We have this little help button on the right. If you click on the help button, it will tell you where you are able to locate your vendor number. So it can be obtained from the staff expense management system under the My Profile section. Okay. But if you click on the help, it will tell you where you can find your vendor number. Okay. You need to provide your previous banking details. So remember, you are completing this in order to update your banking details. You'd also need to upload a bank confirmation letter with the new banking details, not older than 3 months. Statutory information will appear. So for example, your name, your ID number, the country you're born in. It will show sole proprietor here at the bottom, even though you are an individual, but that's because we repurposed the supplier onboarding. You can then indicate when you started at the company. Okay, you can update your physical address if you'd like to. You can click on custom address and the system will populate that map. The contact info, so your information will pre-populate from what was added in at the beginning of the application. You would then need to provide your new banking details by clicking on Add Bank Account. It will ask you if you're authorized to sign the agreement, so you would need to select yes. There is just a short little terms and conditions. Actually, there's no terms and conditions. It's just stating that your bank account will be approved once all relevant documentation has been supplied. You would then need to accept the terms confirmation agreements below. The employee will click on sign agreements and the system will send a one-time PIN to your email address. So you'd need to also add in the one-time PIN. It is a security measure. Once you click on sign, you will then click on next and then submit. Okay, so once you have submitted the application, our system will then just run a quick AVS on the banking details to confirm that it is valid banking information. And what would happen is that application will come to a final approver within your business unit, and they would be able to see the results. So there won't be any score linked to you as an individual. This will just obviously always show as NA. They will be able to see the full onboarding. So this is the application you would have completed as an employee. And then obviously the final approvers can either decline or approve. Okay, if they approve, or when they actually do approve, I don't think they'll be declining any applications, I'm not sure. But if they approve the application, this will then also be automatically created on the Oracle system. Okay, so once it's approved, our system will send the file to Adcock Ingram, send certain fields, and then it will then create that employee on Oracle. If you're updating your banking details, the system will then indate your old banking details and update it with the new banking details. Okay, so it's all automatic that's happening in the back end. Are there any questions with regards to the employee onboarding / employee bank account update? Okay, so it seems like everybody's fine and understands that process. Okay, what I am going to move to now is the bank account update workflow that would be used for suppliers. So where you have an existing supplier and they would like to update their banking details, they would need to access this particular link. Now, this link has been added on the Adcock Ingram internet. So when the supplier goes onto the internet, there will be a link that states if you are an existing supplier and you'd like to update your banking details, they would then, once they click on that link, it will then open up this portal where they can then search for their company. Okay. So if you have a supplier that calls you and advises they had a change in banking details, you would then need to refer them to the Adcock Ingram website in order for them to access that link. I'm sure Ridwan has sent you an email confirming where that link is on your website. Okay. So once the supplier has accessed the link, they would need to search for their company. So let me search for that seeds. This is only available for companies that have already been onboarded. Okay. So if they have not completed a supplier onboarding document previously and they're not existing in the database, they would not be able to select their company. So as you can see, the ones that are grayed out, it says not allowed to select seeds and roots because it has not been onboarded previously. Only the one that is actually white, they would be able to select. Let's just see if I can find that one. Unless I can use ice cream. Okay. So as you can see, this is the one we've just onboarded a few minutes ago. As you can see, I am able to select it because it has been onboarded previously. The supplier will select their company and the system will then ask them some security questions. It's just to ensure that it is actually the person at the organization that would like to access the application for completion. Okay, so they would need to select the number of active directors. If they select the wrong answer, the system will advise them that the verification has failed. They do have up to 3 attempts in order to select the correct answer. Okay. In UAT, we only have one validation step linked, but in the live environment, I think there's two that they would need to answer in order to be verified. Okay. Once they have answered the verification question, the system will take them to initiate bank account update workflow. The information we have existing that appears from SIP-C will be pre-populated. They would need to provide the contact person. So this will be the person that needs to receive the application for completion. So they will receive an application for them to provide their new banking details. They would then need to click on submit if they are satisfied with the application. Okay. Once they click submit, that particular person will need to monitor the email address for further instructions. The system will then send an email to them stating Adcock Ingram bank account update workflow. This is now the supplier receiving the application where they can then complete and update their banking details. They would need to click on start process. This is the landing page that the supplier will see. It does welcome them to the workflow, and they would need to upload documents as PDFs. The first page would be the custom client question. So they would need to provide their vendor number. They would need to indicate for which Adcock Ingram entity the application is being completed for. So we've got all the business units loaded in the system. They would also need to provide their previous banking details. Once they click on next, the system will pre-populate the information as we have it on the system. So as you can see, the supplier does not have to complete a full application from scratch. They can update their address if they need to on this field. The contact information will pre-populate. They can update this and provide their company contact information. They would then need to stipulate their new bank account. So they would need to click on add bank account, and they would need to then select their bank account as well as add in the information. They would also need to indicate if this is their primary account. Okay, once they click on save, it will take them to the submit information section. Once they click on submit, that will bring us to the end of the supplier completing the bank account update workflow. Okay, what would happen now is our system will run an account verification on that new banking details that has been added to ensure that it is an active account per the bank. So it goes through to the bank and it then tells us if it is verified. If that account is successful, a file drop will then be sent to via integration, and the banking details will then be automatically updated in Oracle. Okay. There's no approval on this stage, so this application will not come to a final approval stage at Adcock Ingram. Everything will be automated and updated in Oracle via integration. Okay, so that's the bank account update workflow that we have available. So that's the 3 workflows that we have created for Adcock Ingram. Are there any questions that you have from your side? Hey, Dion, I see you have your hand up. Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, I unfortunately wasn't invited for the start of the meeting, so I missed out on the first part. I see you guys are making a recording of this. You're going to send the recording out to us?
Yes, I will send the recording out. Dion, have you been loaded on the system? Do you have access, and do you fall under the prescription department?
I fall under the description. The prescription department, I have actually operate this thing is, I saw, was also not invited.
Yeah.
And the two ladies from Wadeville that were invited could not attend the session either. They caught up with something else.
Okay. Was that Sue, Annette, and Desiree?
Yeah.
Okay. I do have them on here under RX, but I don't have your name under here. Okay, we'll just have a look and see. Have you received access to the system?
I have no idea. I haven't received anything telling me about.
That's strange. Yeah, because we just received a user list from Ridwan, and that's the list that we went with when we set up all the sessions.
I think, Dion, your buyer is loaded on the system.
Stembiso.
I'll have to check that, but I think he's loaded.
You must check that for me because he also didn't get an invite.
Okay, we'll have a look at that.
Okay,
Sure.
from Wade, yeah.
From Wadeville.
Yeah, from Wadeville, I only have Sue, Annette, and Desiree as initiators.
Okay,
And then
so
the approvals is the normal Rishi, Muhammad, Nolwazi, and Tabo.
Zinat, so we'll have to add Tembiso on.
Tembiso.
Yeah.
Okay, but
and Dion.
Mohammed, is
Yes.
Mbuso not going to be in that approval hierarchy?
I spoke to Nawazi. It's going to be Manoj and then Nawazi and myself and Nawazi. So it just to verify the supplier and once they load it. But I'll speak to Nawazi is on the meeting. She can.
Okay, you guys must keep in mind what we have on our SOPs as well, because on the SOP from our side, Mbuso is the approval from here.
Okay.
Not.
We'll have a look.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree, Dion. We will check to see who can approve vendors currently and make sure that it's aligned with this Inoxico system.
Otherwise, you're very faint.
Oh, all right. I'm just saying we will align the approvers with the practice and what's on your SOPs and our SOPs and so on. I don't think it's been done yet.
Okay.
The list I think that has been sent to Ridwan was sort of an initial list many moons ago when this whole process started. So we'll just align it and have the right people approving.
Okay, 100%.
Okay, and then that new user, we would need to set up some training for him as well.
Yes, please.
Is okay, is his name Tembiso? Can you send his email address to me in the chat, and then we can create him as a user. We will also provide you, Dion, with access to the system. Okay. Are there any other questions from your team?
It doesn't sound like there is. Anybody want to ask anything